The paradox is not a puzzle to be solved, but the living texture of your own being. You are everything and nothing, a boundless ocean pretending to be a single wave, a sky compressed into the name you answer to. This isn't a romantic metaphor. It is the plain fact that your sense of I is both the most intimate center of the universe and a costume stitched from passing weather. You are the actor and the stage, the script and the silence between the lines. The heartbeat that says, I am, is not contained by your skin any more than the song is contained by the flute. The flute shapes the melody. It doesn't own it. Likewise, this body and mind shape a particular note of consciousness, but the music itself is the whole. You are that music, flowing through 1,000 instruments. And yet, here's the sting. You are also no thing in particular, for anything particular can be pointed to and named, and you are that nameless presence which points and names. The paradox: you are the world looking at itself from a point called you, and you are the void in which even the world disappears. We begin here because there is nowhere else to begin. Every attempt to start with a smaller truth and build upward will keep you chasing your tail. The center is everywhere. The moment you accept that paradox, a secret door opens in ordinary life. You notice how the me that tightens against the world is a clenched fist in consciousness, trying to hold water. The harder it grasps, the less it keeps. But when the fist relaxes and the hand opens, water rests in the palm like a cool moon. So rather than trying to escape contradiction, yield to it. Walk straight into it with your eyes soft and your breath unhurried. Let the mind stop trying to corner reality as if it were a frightened animal. Reality is not frightened, it's playful. It's your own laughter, echoing before the joke is told. Consider a sun. Simple image, a whirlpool in a river. You can trace its edge, give it a name, observe its behavior. There goes the whirlpool again, sometimes timid, sometimes ferocious. But if you reach for it, you only touch water. The whirlpool is a form, a happening, a dance of the river. It has no separate stuff. And yet it's not merely imaginary. You too are a whirlpool of the cosmos. Your thoughts, your stories, your memories, all spirals shaped by currents vastly older than your biography. If you cling to the edge as if it were a solid rim, life becomes a struggle against movement, and you call the struggle identity. But when you recognize yourself as the motion of the whole, the strain eases. You are not a creature adrift in an indifferent expanse. You are the expanse enjoying the adventure of a creature. Now let us wander deeper into this paradox, not to solve it, but to breathe with it. Imagine your life as a house with many rooms, some filled with sunlight and the smell of warm bread, others locked and dusty. The ego, the familiar voice that says, I, me, mine, wants the sunny rooms reserved and the dusty rooms demolished. It is forever redecorating the same corner, never noticing that the house is already open on all sides to the sky. That sky is your true nature, spacious and unembarrassed. When you remember that, the house is still there, but its walls turn permeable. Love blows through. Fear doesn't need to be evicted. It is aired out. You do not become a saint or a stone. You become unafraid of your own weather. Begin to listen as if every sound were your own thought and every thought were a passing cloud. Watch how experience arises uninvited, a bird call, the thought of breakfast, the tremor of a half-remembered sorrow. Who invited them? Who dismissed them? No one. They arrive and depart in the same way waves rise and fall, requiring no separate doer behind the Yet here you are, awake to it all, the intimate witness who cannot be located. You are the room in which the furniture appears, the silence in which the music gains meaning, the canvas on which all colors play. Nothing is missing and nothing needs to stay. If you sense a loosening, do not grasp at it. To grasp is already to tighten the mind and shrink the horizon. Let the loosening be as gentle as dusk. The paradox will remain, everything and nothing, and it will cease to bother you because bothering depends upon a fixed stance. When the stance softens, even trouble flows like a river around your ankles, cool and full of light. To live as this paradox is to discover that your so-called separateness is a convenient fiction, like lines on a map. No matter how authoritative the map appears, its lines do not cut the earth. The borders of your body, the borders of your mind, useful, yes, as conventions for conversation and survival. But when you press your hand to your chest and say, I, you are touching a boundary that is constantly crossing itself. Breath goes out to become wind. Wind returns to become breath. Food enters as world and leaves as world. The nerves, like roads of lightning, carry news from 1,000 billion cells, each a tiny tide of the same cosmic ocean. Where precisely do you end and the maple tree begin? At the bark, the pollen, the oxygen your lungs drink like honey? The distinction is a story told for orientation. It is not wrong, but it is not the whole truth. Imagine you are looking into a mirror. The face you see is yours, and yet it is no more you than your reflection in someone else's eyes. Consciousness reflects itself everywhere. In that sense, every encounter is a meeting with yourself in disguise. When a friend laughs, the laughter doesn't belong to one person any more than fire belongs to a single spark. Laughter is a fire that catches, a contagion of delight. We keep pretending that experiences are private parcels fenced with pronouns, but experience, like flame, jumps the fence effortlessly. The paradox here is that your most intimate feelings are the most universal. Grief, joy, longing, they're not sealed in you like letters. They are resonances, and the world is a great instrument that hums sympathetically when any string is plucked. This recognition transforms the way you suffer. Suppose you feel anxiety as a tight drum in the chest. The usual response is to tighten further, to armor against the drum, to command it to be quiet. But when you remember you are everything and nothing, you turn toward the drum with curiosity. You become the spaciousness that holds the sound. The rhythm may continue, but it no longer dictates the dance. You can even smile at it, not mockingly, but with a friendliness that says, "Ah, yes, the weather is stormy today." The storm is not separate from the sky. You do not need to banish it. Watch how, given the warmth of attention, even sharp sensations soften at the edges and begin to rain. Take the image of a wave again. No wave can be permanent. If it were, the ocean would die. So when you plead with life to make happiness permanent, you are pleading for a frozen sea. That is why joy, when hoarded, turns brittle. Beauty, when gripped, loses fragrance. The attempt to crystallize the moving dance into a museum exhibit makes the dance leave the room. Better to dance with it, to be danced by it, and in so doing, to see that you are not apart from the music. The body moves, the mind thrills, and through it all there is a quiet clarity, the still axis of the turning wheel. That axis is your nothingness, the open secret that cannot be wounded, because it has no surface for arrows to strike. Now, a paradox within the paradox. Although you are the whole, you still appear as this particular, with quirks and preferences and a history that smells of rain and cinnamon. To deny that is to become spiritually abstract, a ghost floating all is gemates, ver the kitchen sink while the dishes pile up. The art is to include the particular without forgetting the whole, to be exactly this person, no substitution possible, while knowing that person is a verb, not a noun. You are personing right now, just as the river is rivering. Then compassion naturalizes. You see that others are also whirlpools with their dramas, and tenderness arises without effort. You do not need a rule to be kind. Kindness grows like wild mint by the water's edge. Consider time. We habitually think of life as a journey from past to future, like a train moving through stations called events. But time as you live it is always now. The carriage does not move, the scenery does. Memory is scenery moving in one direction, expectation in another, and the present is the clear window in which they pass. If you root yourself in the window, you discover that each moment is complete, not a mere step toward some final triumph. This doesn't make you passive, it makes you accurate. Action becomes the dance of the present, not a desperate leap toward imaginary ground. And what of meaning? When you imagine that meaning must be added to life from the outside, you become a collector of significance, lugging around heavy chests filled with explanations. But when you relax into the paradox, everything and nothing, you find that meaning is the perfume of being itself. It arises when you are present to the unfolding, as fragrance arises when the rose opens. You cannot force the scent. You can only allow the flower to be fully itself. In the same way, your life's meaning is not a riddle to decode, but a scent released when you live as the whole, moving through the particular, unashamed and undefended. So the invitation is simple. Soften into the shape you already are. Taste the tea without hurrying its warmth. Hear the distant dog bark, as if it were your own call to moonlight. Feel the breath enter and leave like a tide that forgot it was separate from the sea. No technique is demanded, only sincerity. Sincerity is the gateway that needs no gate, the willingness to be surprised by the obvious. Let's bring these insights to the intimate corridors of daily life. Suppose someone speaks harshly to you. The immediate habit is to shrink into a small fortress or to fire arrows back. But recall, you are the room, not merely the furniture. When the words enter, let them echo. Hear the pain beneath the sharpness. Hear your own old stories waking up to defend themselves. Instead of agreeing or resisting, listen with the whole body. In that listening, space opens. You can respond from clarity rather than reflex. Sometimes clarity says no with the firmness of a mountain. Sometimes it smiles and lets the moment pass like a cloud ignoring its own shadow. In both cases, your response is not a performance to win favor. It is the world adjusting itself through the form called you. Consider work. Many believe that work is a means to reach a future where life finally begins. But life does not begin in the future. It never has. If your task today is to sweep a floor, sweep as if the bristles and the dust were old friends meeting after a long voyage. Let attention pour into each stroke. Do not reduce the moment to a ticket punched for later reward. When the ego holds the broom, it calculates and complains. When the whole holds the broom, there is only the play of fibers and wood and grit, and the soft satisfaction of a path made clean. Productivity, then, is not a tyrant with a stopwatch. It is the quiet competence of being truly here. Relationships bloom when you understand that no one can give you what you refuse to be. If you want love, be loving. If you want respect, respect yourself by living honestly. This is not a moral commandment, but an energetic law. The world reflects the tone you set with your own presence. When you need someone else to complete you, you turn them into a tool, and resentment rusts the blade. But when you stand as everything and nothing, as fullness that needs no ornament, companionship becomes a dance, not a transaction. Two waves meet, mingle, and part, and the ocean remains one. Intimacy thrives when neither tries to imprison the other in yesterday's sketch. Allow the beloved to be weather, changing, vivid, free. Now let us speak of fear. Fear is often a prophecy that never learned to read the present. It paints monsters on the wall, then trembles before its own art. When fear arises, do not wage war against it. Invite it to tea. Ask, where in the body do you sit? Is it a knot, a coldness, a buzzing hive? Let your attention be warm hands around it. Don't analyze the content at first. Attend to the sensation. You'll discover that fear, when held, reveals its true face, care. You're afraid because you care about life, about connection, about continuity. Bow to that care. Then ask whether this care needs to tighten or to trust. Often it needs to widen, like a window opening to the evening breeze. Creation, art, conversation, invention flowers naturally when you stop trying to be original. Originality is what happens when the river forgets to imitate other rivers. Allow action to arise from the quiet center. If you write, let words arrive like birds choosing your branch. If you cook, let flavors talk to each other until they decide the menu. You are not the tyrant of your creativity. You are its garden. Prepare the soil, rest, attention, humility, and the harvest will come in its own season. Then success and failure are not verdicts. They are weathers passing over the same affectionate ground. A word about discipline. People often imagine awakening as a peak reached by iron will, but the will is a good horse and a terrible master. Discipline is devotion to reality as it is, not punishment for what it isn't. If your practice is to sit quietly each morning, sit not to accumulate virtue, but to make friends with what is already true. Some days the mind will be wild. On those days your practice is to welcome the wildness. Other day is it will be clear as a bell. On those days your practice is to not congratulate yourself. In both cases, the paradox remains your companion. You are the stillness that sees and the weather that is seen. And when grief arrives, real grief, not the theatrical kind, let it have your whole house. Draw the curtains back, set another place at the table. Grief is love without its object, and it moves through like a river swollen with rain. If you dam it, it will eventually break and carry the village with it. If you let it flow, it will leave the banks richer. This is not poetry. It is the way the heart cleans itself. You do not get over loss by forgetting. You move through loss by remembering that you are more than the form that was lost, and yet that form was a perfect expression of the whole, and therefore your tears are holy water. As for purpose, beware of chasing a script written by fear. Purpose is not a trophy, but a direction of sincerity. Ask what feels like a yes in the bones, not merely a yes in the applause. When your actions harmonize with the quiet joy of being, you are purposeful even if no one notices. The paradox again. When you cease demanding that life justify itself to you, purpose becomes obvious, like the way a tree reaches for light. It does so not for applause, but because stretching is its nature. Thus, in the small ceremonies of each day, tying your shoes, washing your face, speaking your name on the phone, practice remembering. You are the world, and you are the space that holds the world. Let this remembering be gentle. Let it pass through your life like a breeze lifting curtains, leaving the room unchanged and entirely new. Now we turn toward transformation, not as a project to renovate the self, but as a relaxation into what has always been. The ego thinks of growth as addition, more knowledge, more certainty, more control. But true transformation is subtraction. You remove what is unnecessary, the insistence on being right, the armor of pretense, the habit of standing apart, and what remains is simple, luminous presence. Imagine placing a lantern in a fog. You cannot move the lantern to chase clarity. You simply stand, and the fog thins by its own nature. The lantern is your awareness. The fog is your centuries of inheritance, your personal narratives, your learned defenses. Stand with the flame clear, and the air knows what to do. Let go of the idea that awakening must feel special. The most profound peace is ordinary, like warm water on the hands. It does not make fireworks every hour. It hums. You grow into it as one grows into a well-worn coat, at first aware of the seams, then simply warm. People ask, will I lose my individuality? Nonsense. You cannot lose what you never owned. Individuality is the universe's way of making a unique sound. It is not a possession, but a performance. When you see this, you stop guarding yourself like a museum and begin playing yourself like an instrument. Then the music finds you everywhere, in difficult conversations, in traffic, in the solitude of a late-night kitchen. Peace is not elsewhere. It is the center you carry into anywhere. Spiritual freedom is the end of argument with reality. Not resignation, not passivity, but a fearless friendliness with what is. The river curves, the wind shifts, the heart softens and hardens and softens again. You do not need to domesticate the wildness of life. When you identify as the whole, you trust its intelligence. You can feel the yes and the no blooming in the same field, and you can choose without anxiety. One path, then another. One season, then another. This is not drifting. It is dancing with a partner who leads as much as you do, and who is also you. The freedom is not freedom from, but freedom as. Meaning of life? To ask it as a question is like asking the meaning of a dance while refusing to move. Life is the meaning of life. When you dance, the point is not to arrive at the far corner of the room. The point is the dance. So move. Let your steps be heavy when they are heavy, light when they are light. When the mind demands a verdict, smile and give it an apple, then return to the music. Let us end as we began, with the paradox that is your inheritance. You are everything and nothing. Sit quietly for a moment. Feel the breath enter, the world as air entering this particular shape. Feel the breath leave, this shape returning its gift. Notice sounds, a distant engine, a bird's fragment of song, the faint hum of an unseen device. Let them be. Notice thoughts, a plan, a memory, a small irritation trying on a large coat. Let them be. You do not cling, you do not push away. You are the space in which all of this performs its brief and beautiful theater. In that space, kindness ripens without instruction, courage grows without effort, and gratitude opens its hand like dawn, opening the eyelids of a sleeping town. If the mind asks for a technique, give it one so simple it cannot fail. Pause. Return to the body. Feel the contact of feet with floor, the weight of jaw, the warmth of palms. Ask without words, who is feeling this? Not to win an answer, but to let the question dissolve into the very feeling of being. There, in that simple openness, the paradox is not perplexing, but playful. Everything appears, nothing sticks, and the one who knows is not a thing at all, but knowing itself. So carry this with you, not as an argument, not as a belief, but as a friendly suspicion about everything you take to be solid. Let it soften you. When you speak, let the words emerge from a larger silence. When you listen, let the silence hear itself through you. When pain comes, hold it as you would a small animal lost in a storm. When joy comes, let it pour through without hoarding even a thimbleful. Walk through your day as the ocean walks through its waves, intimately involved, never entangled. And now, for a breath or two, we will be quiet together. Let the belonging you already are glow quietly in the ribs. Let the world arise on its own, colors, shapes, thoughts, the taste of the next moment. In this effortless noticing, being completes its circle and begins again without beginning. You, vast and tender, are home.